I wanted to talk about bipolar disorder and um, aging, how it changes as we get older, and um, being 53 years old myself, I looked it up not too long ago if things changed as you age because I had noticed a difference in a big difference in what it was like when I was diagnosed, in my 20s, and what it was like in my 30s, um, and what it's like now. Um, and what I read, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm just talking about myself and what I have read is that as we get older, the episodes of irritability become more prevalent than the euphoric manias. And when I read that, I was really disappointed and upset because those mixed episodes, when you generally have the irritability, are very miserable. And and so you're going from high energy misery and then when you get depressed you're in low energy misery. So that's no fun. First of all, I was diagnosed with just depression in my um, when I was 15. When I was in the hospital. This was back in the day of this was in the 80s when they would keep you as long as insurance would pay for it. So I was in the hospital for a month, and I didn't. They asked me if I wanted to go. My parents did, and I said yes. But while I was there, I got really nasty and wanted and didn't think I belonged there. And anyway, that's a whole experience in itself. Um, when I got home, I was responsible for taking my medication, and I stopped. First of all, I didn't like how it made me feel. Um, I wasn't able to match my the the energy level that my friends had. Um, it was nortriptyline, old, very old antidepressant, and it cut the side effects, and and I felt like I was fine anyway, so I didn't need them anymore. Early 20s, I thought I was having this another problem that might be like the problem I had when I was 15, but it was a little different. There was more agitation involved and anxiety. Um, and I went to doctor and went to psychiatrist and said, well, I was diagnosed with depression when I was 15. I kind of feel like maybe it's coming back. And so I was started on Prozac, but quickly switched to Zoloft because Prozac gave me bad side effects. I was in my mid-20s and I just noticed that something felt wrong, and I just wasn't sleeping, and my thoughts were racing, and I couldn't sit still, And so I went to my primary physician, and she diagnosed bipolar and tried bipolar 2 at the time. Um, and she attempted to treat it herself, um, per my request. But it became apparent, say over a period of a month, that I had something more serious than bipolar 2, because I was not sleeping at all, period. And the medications only made me feel worse. My thoughts were very negative, very racing. I was walking the streets middle of the night because I couldn't sleep. And there was an element of delusion in there. I must be evil. I thought I was evil. Not a devil, not the devil or a demon, but I had to be evil for thinking things that, for the thoughts that were going through my head. And so, and that was a mixed episode, and that put, with delusion, so that put me into the bipolar 1. So I tried lithium right away, but they didn't have continuous release like they do now. And when I tried to take it, even before I hit therapeutic dose, so apparently I'm very sensitive to it, I was like, this is me trying to hold a cup. I had massive tremors, and it was awful. So that was a no-go. And that was my long history of being tried on every mood stabilizer you can name, and it not working. And so by not working, what I mean is you starting out euphoric manias, which meant having lots of brilliant ideas that kept me up at night. I mean, the euphoria was there. It felt great. I was great. I thought I was exceptional and important, and that's like a really good way to feel. But after doing this so many times, I became aware of the fact that, okay, this is following a pattern. It's fun and games until the mania hits a peak. And then I stay with the hyper, like, restlessness and the racing thoughts and all that, but it all goes negative, and it's dysphoria, not euphoria. And that is mixed and miserable and horrible place. It's like you can't stand to be in your own skin. And I wanted to just like take my brain out of my head and set it on the night table. I mean, it was, and then I would plummet into a very lengthy depression, deep, physical and mental. Physical, catatonic almost. Like I would catch myself staring at a wall and thinking nothing for I don't know how long. Just really unable to even, I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't, the monologue in my head was Why? Who cares? What difference does it make? Whatever, that was what was going through my head. And because nothing was working, I was having very short periods of normalcy in between these episodes. And these episodes all together would last months. One time I had a depression last a full year. That catatonic, heavy, lethargic, slow. And at some point there, my fiance decided that he wasn't all in for the in sickness and health part, which was traumatic, but for the best in the long run. I wouldn't want someone to feel like they were trapped. And I was really asexual anyway. I was trying to please my family by being the first to go to college, and that's a whole different thing. Anyway, so I moved back. I moved in with my mom. There was a point where I went back to work and got my own apartment nearby where my mom was living. But I wasn't living alone very well. The apartment was a mess. I couldn't keep things organized. I don't know how I was making it to work. Starting projects and not finishing them, and the remains just laying around. And I had a major episode. And so I had to move in with my mom again. I'm apparent at that point that I was not able to go back to work again. And I was kind of pressured into applying for disability, but I fought it because I was ashamed and disappointed in myself, and felt like the whole family who had been bragging about me were now pitying me. That's how I felt. But I continued to have the euphoric manias with delusions of grandeur. So, in the long depressions, it was the medication just wasn't working. I was on, before lithium, continuous release. Oh my gosh. Mood stabilizer, Neurontin, Tegretol. I was on mood stabilizer, Topamax, Triliptal, Lamictal, Abilify, Depakote, antipsychotics, Risperidol, Zyprexa. Abilify is an antipsychotic, but it's a mood stabilizer as well, I think. So, and there were more, so nothing was working, and the side effects were miserable. Depakote made me lose hair, and is why my hair is now curly when it had been straight, because it grew back in curly. I got extremely overweight because of I was on, like, don't ever be on Depakote, Remeron, and Zyprexa at the same time unless you want to gain like 40 pounds. So then I had the depression to go with. I'm fat after a lifetime of being, oh, you're so cute, you're so tiny. We got locked out of the house once and I crawled through the doggy door. And, just your feet are so small. I had that all my life. I had that in my, that I equated that with part of how I felt good about myself. And so I was like, so I've had just another thing stolen from me. I had no identity at that time except for bipolar. And when I did finally apply for disability, I did get it on the first time. It might have had something to do with the fact that I sobbed the entire time. I made an appointment because they send you this giant stack and it's to discourage you. But then if you see they're on there somewhere, it says if you need help filling these out. So that's what I did. And she was a social worker and fantastic. But these days, I think everybody gets denied, at least first try. I hated it, but I needed the money. I did manage to pay my bills that I owed, and I have lived with my mom most of the time. There was a time where I had after when I started taking lithium, everything changed. I got so much better. Just before the lithium and Seroquel, just before, I was having a lot of angry, irritable, agitated outbursts. I would say horrible things to people, yell, scream, throw stuff, slam stuff, SH in just anger. And it really came down to frustration because I couldn't get my brain to cooperate. And the chemicals were just causing it too. And it just kept me in a negative space, and I could be fine and a minor thing would happen. It's something to do with technology. Like maybe my laptop wasn't behaving and I would just lose my shit. And my poor mom, I would just follow her around the house ranting and raving, and I knew it was happening and I knew I was doing it, but I couldn't stop it. Now, I have something very confusing going on in my life right now. I have been formally, professionally diagnosed twice with autism, and I was told by my psychiatrist to not assume that these irritable outbursts are bipolar because they could be part of the autism spectrum and meltdowns. And so this is new information, so I have yet to observe this. So anytime I start to feel irritable, I think of a lot of things, but I'm going to get back to where I was in my story. And so after I'd been started on lithium, things improved so much. I would still have like hypomanias and some irritability episodes, but the depression was much better. It was short. The episodes were shorter, and I had more space in between where I felt okay. Bipolar wise, um, and then when Seroquel was added, that made things a lot better with the irritability. That really hit home, made a big difference. Such a big difference that I was able to get an apartment near where my mom lived. And oh, I loved my little apartment. It was just like this one bedroom, me and first it was just me and my dog, and then it turned out she had separation anxiety, so I got another one. But I kept a clean house. I didn't work, so I didn't have that stressor on me. I was getting my disability, and my rent was like reduced. Um, it was a clean apartment, and I had my daily routine, just as I liked. My mom at that time moved to Texas. There were a couple of times I had to call her in a panic because the Seroquel was regular Seroquel, and about 2 hours after I would take it, I would get my heart felt like it was pounding out of my chest, and then I would get a panic attack thinking I was going to die alone in my apartment, and my mom was in Texas. And my psychiatrist did some research and discovered that in rare cases, Seroquel can make your blood pressure drop. And that's why my heart was beating so hard. It was compensating for the low blood pressure. And so as soon as XR came on the scene, I was started on that, and it eliminated the heart pounding pain. It was terrible. And so I don't have that anymore. And so I have been on lithium and Seroquel for many, many, many years. And after that, I still had episodes, but they weren't, I was still able to function. I was still able to push through the depressions, identify hypomania, and make sure I was on schedule with my routine and things like that. I was able to take care of myself. And that lasted for many years. And I can't tell you how many, though, because I have a very poor reference of time spans. My mom knows more. I just know that it was a very long time, and it was a very lovely time. I did start my YouTube videos before I even moved in my apartment. But that's when I had the most fun with it, though. And I had this pink, no, the moped was purple, like lilac, purple. And I had a pink leather jacket and a pink helmet and pink gloves, and I'd putter around town. And every Friday I'd go to the thrift store, and me and my dog, and we had or go rent movies. So that was a very pleasant time. Then my mom was moving back to Missouri, and she couldn't afford to live alone. She was retiring, and so she was moving back to where I was. And so I left my apartment when my lease was up and moved in to this house with her. Was doing very well until my body decided that it didn't like lithium anymore. That's where I'm at now. I had, as I said, I'm sensitive to lithium and its side effects, but last year, I had been walking around with a high lithium level and didn't know it. The person that was taking care of me didn't act on it, and I didn't know. And then I went to a festival, and it was very hot. I had been preparing for the festival. It was very hot, and I got dehydrated. My primary doctor had prescribed a medication that makes lithium higher in your bloodstream, and my orthodontist told me to take anti-inflammatories for my TMJ, and that increases your lithium. And so I had like the perfect storm kind of situation. I ended up in the hospital. You can see some of those hospital videos where I'm like, I got to where if someone asked me a question, all I could say was my name and I don't know and yes. I was incapacitated. I couldn't walk. My limbs were all akimbo, and so anyway, as a result, a different psychiatrist took my case over, and they decreased the lithium, and that's where I'm at now. I'm not happy. The decrease in lithium has resulted in an increase in the agitation, the sensation of agitation, pretty much on a daily basis. I'm going up and down so much, so close together. They're short episodes. They're like a couple weeks of hypomania, and then 4 days of I can barely move. And so I've been going through that since October last year, and I'm not happy because I don't know that I'm hypomanic until the depression starts to come, and I look back, I start to come down, and I'm phasing into depression, and I'm looking back, and I'm like, oh crap, that was hypomania. Luckily, so far, there's not been any mania, as in delusions, any psychosis or behaviors that would send me to the hospital, or I'm still functioning at part-time work, but I struggle so hard. It's either my mind is blank and I can't, and thoughts just pop in and out of my head and I can't find them anymore, or it's blank, or things are just like this thing, then this thing, and this thing, and I can't keep track of anything, and I'm just all over the place. I can't focus. But so they did tell me on my assessment, and I was surprised that I do have some attention deficit disorder. And so here's what I think is happening is I think they're kind of feeding off of each other, the bipolar autism and ADHD. See, sometimes I'm really irritable and agitated and angry, but there's no mood there. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, this one I need to start looking at, am I getting too much sensory input? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I taking care of myself? So right now, I am in the process of trying to dissect, is this meltdown? Is this depression? Is this mixed episode? Is this, how long is this going to last? That's where I'm at right now. My psychiatrist that I've been seeing now, he says, oh, there's more out there, but I don't see much new out there. There are things that I just refuse to take. There are some I can't, but there are some that I won't. So I have to get my labs done very, frequently. The lithium level says it's in therapeutic range, but I feel a big difference. I do. It just feels like today was a good day. I had energy. I went and did my thing, my dog training, and I painted, and now I'm doing a video. These days have become rare. They become the exception. It's weird because while I was on Seroquel and that full dose of lithium, when I had an episode, it was more irritability than depression and no more euphoria. And I read that that was the course that bipolar tends to take. As you age, the euphoria, mania, those episodes lessen and become, and the irritability and mixed episodes become more prevalent. So you spend more time feeling like crap. And that's exactly what I've been going through, and I have to do some way of monitoring, okay, I feel this way. Have I eaten? Because I discovered just the other day I didn't know what was wrong with me. And some people with autism have trouble reading their body's cues, their needs. And it turns out I hadn't eaten all day and I ate and felt much better. So I'm going to have to go back to old school monitoring where, okay, I feel like crap today. What else am I feeling? To try to pinpoint, is this bipolar? Is this autism? Is this ADHD? Am I just having a bad day? I haven't had to do that kind of analyzing of my mood since I was diagnosed. And so I'm gonna have to figure out a way. I'm always up for making graphs and schedules and things like that. So I'm sure I'll figure something out, and so I can get a better picture of what's going on. But I've had more, since the lithium's been reduced, I've had more euphoric moments. But I don't know. I think it's just me feeling good, and it turns out that I was on the upswing of. So I don't really know how much time I'm getting in between episodes of normalcy. And I'm not liking that. The other part of this is my mom is in her 70s. There's going to be a time when she's not going to be there. And I need someone, I need support, and I don't know how I'm going to get that. As someone with autism, I don't know anybody. I I see people and go the other way because it's so stressful interacting with them. And my mom has to keep reminding me you have a disability because I get angry about it. And she's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You have a disability. So I have family. I just don't want to, they just don't understand what my disorders involve. And I don't think they would understand the ups and downs and I just don't know. I really, really worry, and I know that my mom is worried about who am I going to get support from when she's gone. And I worry about what's going to happen to me when I get really old and I'll still have bipolar 1, I'll still have autism. Am I going to end up in a home somewhere? Are they going to take good care of me? Am I going to get some crazy person taking care of me and doing awful things to me? I've heard plenty of nursing home horror stories. I've seen them because I used to work at one. And I've seen on TV reports of, and I'm just terrified of not being mentally able to fend for myself and relying on strangers who may not have your best interests at heart in charge of you, and they aren't going to know how to deal with you. If I'm like at a facility and I'm walking up and down the halls yelling and screaming and slamming and stuff, they're just gonna grab some Haldol and give me a shot. And to be honest, I hope I don't live that long, because that would be terrifying. But anyway, I don't know if I'll be able to stay on the lithium at all, because my creatinine level, which is your kidneys, it's right there on the edge. We're going to check it another time. And I am going to be doing one 3-day weekend at the festival. I'm hoping it's not hot, but at least I'll be starting with a lithium level that is within normal limits, therapeutic level. And I'll have another level check about a month before. I'm going to request a second one before or after the festival. And so that's what I worry and am not feeling well most days. I hope my creatinine level goes down so I can at least stay on this amount of lithium, because I know that if I'm put on something else, it's going to be worse. I'm going to be in the hospital. I have not been in the hospital 2008. And I used to be in and out. So I could become delusional and do weird, crazy things. I don't want that. I don't want to go there again. And that would suck. And I've talked way too long. So I definitely will try to edit this down. But I want to express my concerns about the future and wondering if any of you who are watching this worry about it as well, the same thing I'm worrying about. So if so, please comment, subscribe, buy me a coffee. That's it. Bye.